Okay, I'm really excited for today's topic. Why taking thyroid medication and or bioidentical or hormone replacements is like playing whack-a-mole. You heard that correctly. Why taking bioidentical hormones, hormone replacement, and or thyroid meds is like taking or playing whack-a-mole. So that's not to say that there's not a time and a place. If there's been a hysterectomy, or there's been a thyroid removal, or there's been major radiation or trauma or whatever, the triage would necessitate you having to be on these. There's not a time and a place. Not to say that there's not ever a time and a place or an appropriate mechanism to take these hormones, but it is too often the default algorithm. And I'm going to teach you why it's not going to certainly solve an adrenal problem, an exhaustion problem, a fatigue problem, a libido problem, a metabolism problem, a focus problem, an energy problem, and having the ability to withstand stress throughout the entire day problem, because there's so much going on in the body that one pill is not going to fix. It's just not going to do it. So my name's Dr. Joel Rosen. I am the Adrenal Fatigue Recovery Ninja, and I'm really excited to be talking about why taking bioidentical or thyroid hormone is like playing whack-a-mole. And I'm sure you've been through that yourself, where you take thyroid meds and it may have been helpful in the beginning, but then you have heart palpitations, you can't sleep, you feel like you're constantly too overstimulated, and then you lower your thyroid meds, and now you feel tired and exhausted and cold and can't lose weight, and then you play whack-a-mole. Or why the same thing with the hormone replacements. You're on hormone replacements. It may help with, this particular symptom, but then all of a sudden you spring a leak in the other part of the hose in another part of the system, and you're irritable and you're angry and you're moody and you're not fun to be around. Or, it may have improved one thing, but it didn't improve all the things. It's playing whack-a-mole. So what I want to talk to you about, where you're going to get a lot out of this tonight, is what does the thyroid do? That's the main question that you need to ask yourself. What is the role of the thyroid and the thyroid hormone and the thyroid mechanics? And until I learned this, actually only even a couple years ago, I was sort of in the land of the lost of working on addressing the thyroid by itself, with not understanding why the thyroid would do what it's doing when there's a danger response in the body. So let's talk about, first and foremost, what does the thyroid do? So, if we were at the top front of the class and I was a teacher and say, okay, students, put your hand up, what does the thyroid do? And I'm sure most of you would say it regulates your metabolism, right? I mean, everyone kind of gets that. And the easiest way to think about metabolism, you eat food and it creates energy, right? So your thyroid dictates the ability to burn calories or drive your metabolism, produce energy, keep you warm, make the systems work in the body. You would be correct. That would be correct. But I want to simplify it even further for you. And what I want to tell you is the thyroid regulates oxygen uptake inside the cell. Plain and simple. Regulates O2 uptake inside the cell. So think of it like that. It regulates oxygen uptake in the cell. So what does that oxygen do? Well, the cell is supposed to breathe. It's supposed to respire. And it's like if you think about your electrical socket and it delivers energy when you plug in, there's a copper coil and electrons bounce across that electrical coil and it produces energy. It's the same kind of deal. There's something called the electron transport chain in our mitochondria. And what that does is that passes electrons and it needs oxygen to be able to produce ATP, bottom line. So if your body's job is or the thyroid's job is to regulate oxygen uptake inside the cell, then why is the thyroid not functioning properly when we have a lot of things going on in the body? You got to ask yourself that question. And so what are the things that could be going wrong? First and foremost, class, like if you need increase oxygen uptake inside the cell? Well, you need to get over a hurdle. You need to deal with a stressor. You need to work, deal with more demands of the body, which is true. So what are some of the demands of the body? Well, we're in a stressed world, right? We have multitasking written all over our calendar. So I have to balance the checkbook. I have to prepare the dinner. I have to work 2 jobs. I have to go see the in-laws. I have to, work my businesses. I gotta, keep the dates of all the to-do lists on my calendar happy, right? I mean, lots of things that we're doing in today's day and age. But first and foremost is inflammation, right? We are all, to some extent or another, to one degree of variation to another, different shades of gray, inflamed. And what happens is your body, as a byproduct of producing energy, produces free radicals. It's like a factory. You have a factory, it produces the widget, and it has a smokestack that comes out and produces a exhaust, right? Your car produces exhaust. It's a byproduct of energy. And when you are having a demand and supply problem, which I always say, when your body doesn't have the micronutrients, your microbiome's not working as effectively as it can, it's depleted in vital nutrients and vitamins, there are absorption issues, there's not good culture and B vitamin utilization, and there's inflammation from the point of view that there's a pathogen or there's a chemical or there's a metal or there's just the environment that's in your body that's going to produce more free radicals, right? You're going to produce more free radicals. More of your energy production is side avenue to a free radical production. And so your thyroid, knowing that, hey, we regulate uptake of oxygen inside the cell, what feeds inflammation? If I have a fire and I'm in the forest and I don't have many chances to be able to light a match, what am I going to do? I'm going to control the oxygen, right? I'm going to want to make sure that there's not a lot of wind there to blow out the flame, but that once it's lit, I'm going to, fan that flame a little bit to give it a little bit of oxygen, to give it a little bit of fuel to be able to burn at a higher rate. So we have this conundrum where the thyroid regulates ATP production to drive the system, but at the same time, when we have all of those things going on from the environmental standpoint, it also feeds free radical production. So wouldn't it make sense for your body to inherently be intelligent and say, we need to slow down oxygen uptake inside the cell? Yes, we're going to, make our own energy depleted, but at the same time, we're going to deplete the inflammation's progress as well. And we are going to stave off any overblowing discrepancies between inflammation and antioxidant production, right? Meaning, if you're at a loss, if you're under a cell danger response, you have a lot of stressors going on, your absorption, your minerals, your microbiome, your blood sugar, your chemical disruptors, your pathogens, your heavy metals, the sky is falling, all of the things. And then all of a sudden, you're producing these free radicals. You don't have a lot of gas in the tank. Last thing you want to do is burn gas at a faster rate and creating a bigger discrepancy between inflammation production and inflammation control. Hopefully that makes sense. So then what do? This is where we play whack-a-mole. We go in there and we give ourselves thyroid meds, or we give ourselves bioidentical hormones to restore those useful ages, or those pre-menopausal levels that you had when you were younger. And we say, I'm an anti-aging specialist. I'm going to give you bioidentical hormones, and we are going to fix all the things that are going wrong with the body, cell danger that it would tell itself to produce less ATP, and creating a bigger discrepancy between free radical production and antioxidant production. And I'm just going to blindly, ignorantly, reductionistically say, hey, here we go. And you may feel good for a little bit, right? And I don't object with a stopgap, with something to get you over the hurdle. Like you got a lot of stressors, you're under the weather, you have no energy, you can't get out of bed. I like that concept, but it's not a set it and forget it concept. And that's where when we go on a thyroid med or we go on a bioidentical, at least let's have the conversation like, hey, Mrs. Jones, this is short term, right? Because your body doesn't have a thyroid and bioidentical deficiency the majority of the time. Now, there are, like I said at the beginning, prefacing this, there are instances when your body's just not able to produce these things. There's autoimmunities that necessitate you be on some of these things for life, or you had your thyroid removed, or you don't have, you had a hysterectomy. And even so, why would you have needed the thyroid removed? Why would you have needed the hysterectomy? Because those things were happening already that weren't being addressed, right? It still means that you have an immune system that's still there. Even though you took out the thyroid and the female reproductive system, your immune system is still there. Your brain is still there. Your hypothalamus is still there. Your neurological system is there. Your microbiome system is there. Your detox system is still there. Those were still some of the things that were working properly for this to happen in the first place. Right? I mean, really, come on. So there are instances when you need that, but at least let's have the conversation like Mrs. Jones. We're going to support you with thyroid support to give you some more oxygen uptake into the cell so you can produce ATP. But we're also going to put our Sherlock Holmes hat on, and we're going to go upstream to figure out why. Right? Because this just didn't fall out of the sky and hit you on the thyroid or on your ovaries on the way down. It didn't. You've been, and a lot of the people I'll talk to, they say, well, I was perfectly fine up until 49 years of age. And then next thing you know, this, that, and the other happened. And I'm like, really? Like, so you didn't have anxiety, you never crashed in the middle of the day, you never had a challenge with blood sugar or feel sleepy afterwards, your GI system never hurt, you never had focus or brain fog issues, you never had the time of the month where you're a little bit more moody than another time, your periods weren't erratic, you didn't have libido issues, your motivation was always perfect, and then all of a sudden it did hit you on the way down. No, your cup was filling up over time, and then the proverbial straw, caused the levee to break, and now you're saying, well, I was perfectly fine. You weren't perfectly fine. That was building up over time. And if we sit down and have you lay on the couch and I say, okay, Mrs. Jones, tell me when it all began, we would see trends along the way. And all of a sudden it's starting to make sense. Yeah, I guess you're right. When I was young, I had Epstein-Barr and I had to miss school, and I always had sore inflamed lymph nodes, and I had to be put on antibiotics 1,000 times, and I always had ear infections and my stomach hurt, or when I had a test, I would get anxious, or, I wasn't always in the mood libido-wise. And yeah, I guess I can see clues along the way, right? I mean, success or failure leaves clues. It doesn't just happen out of the blue. So back to the conversation. Let's have the conversation of, if we put you on these bioidentical hormones, or if we put you on these thyroid meds, let's work at getting upstream and understanding what the root cause of it is, so that you realize that this is a short-term stopgap medication, right? But secret is that doesn't keep the drug companies in business making billions of dollars if you get you on a medication part-time. Your medication is designed to be a life sentence. You're hereby sentenced for a life of thyroid meds for the rest of your life, and insurance is going to pick up a percentage of it, and we're going to get super rich. It's true. It's really true. But anyways, I digress. So what can we do about it? Well, first and foremost, we talked about having the conversation. This is a stopgap. This is something that's going to give us some support while we look at the thyroid mechanics, not just how the thyroid is producing, while we look at how the thyroid is also being able to being processed. How are we able to convert inactive hormones into active hormones? How are we able to use receptors to get inside the cell and spark a flame? How are we able to address the things that would cause the body to inherently slow down the oxygen uptake in the cell? And usually those are blood sugar issues, those are environmental chemicals and toxins. Unfortunately, the world's more toxic and stressful than it's ever been. And the reality is it's impacting our genes more than we've ever expected it to. And it's not like the sky is falling. You can fix a lot of these problems, but you got to be aware of it. Same thing with bioidenticals. I mean, I'm not against bioidentical either. But let's have the conversation. While your libido is low, while your testosterone is low, while your estrogen is low and your progesterone is low, there's something going on. Maybe we have an absorption problem. Maybe we don't have the proper nutrients in our diet to begin with, even to absorb them. Maybe we have microbes that are stealing from Peter to pay Paul, meaning they're stealing our raw materials to be able to keep their own life going and being able to feed their own growth. And now we have a cohabitation of microbes in our GI tract that are sustaining their own life, robbing us of our raw materials. And now we're not able to use those raw materials to make hormones. But being put on a hormone replacement is not going to fix the core of the problem. That's playing whack-a-mole, right? Playing whack-a-mole to me is like taking the care of the problem downstream and expecting that to fix a problem upstream, only to find that when you fix one of the problems downstream, another problem pops up because you never fixed the core problem. And that's just simple common physics, right? If I go to a house and I do a crappy job, my wife always says, the lazy man works twice as hard, right? Because you work hard at having to fix the problem over and over and over again because you never fixed it correctly from the first time. It's really, really true. So, it really irritates me because I just had a consult today. We went over a thyroid report. It didn't look at T4. It didn't look at T3. It didn't look at reverse T3. All it looked at was TSH. And the TSH was like 0.63 or something like that. From a lab range, it wasn't low. 0.45 is the low range. 4.5 is the high range. So 0.63 is the same on a lab test as 4.4 because they're both normal. They're not flagged. But how does 0.63 in your mind mean the same thing as 4.4? How does it mean the same thing? It doesn't mean the same thing. It means that the pituitary is taking its foot off the pedal, telling the thyroid, hey, you don't need to bring O2 uptake into the cell. We already got a lot of raw materials that are depleted. We already got a little more inflammation than we can handle. The last thing we want to do is fan the flame, right? The last thing we want to do is fan the flame. Even that alone was enough to tell me that things weren't working so well. But then on top of that, we don't see any thyroid antibodies. And she told me, you know what? No one will tell me about what this means because I'm losing my hair. And the endocrinologist says, I don't see people that are losing their hair. I don't do that. And it's like, well, wait a minute, Mr. Endocrinologist, didn't you forget that you're a doctor and your Hippocratic Oath was to do no harm and to listen to your patients to figure out what's not working so that you can correlate the objective markers with the subjective complaints and be a Sherlock's Holmes and be in the corner for the patient so that you can help them with their problem, even though it goes away from the algorithm that you learned 18 years ago when you were in school that was already 17 years behind the research? I mean, seriously. Really, really irritates me, the arrogance of it all, the ignorance of it all, the lack of caring for it all. People are suffering with exhaustion and fatigue problem, and it's not like they want to feel this way. It's not like they're walking around like, yeah, I feel really tired, and I continue on to feel tired. In fact, I'll just dedicate the next 60 hours a week studying this stuff, trying to figure this out so that I can get back to my life because I like this, because it's fun. It's not. It's not fun. So playing whack-a-mole means that you're not getting upstream. You're not looking at the root causes of the problem. And we haven't even talked about methylation issues, not MTHFR. We haven't talked about iron overload, which I've talked about several times. We're not talking about oxidation of fats and proteins because you can't burn them. We're not talking about histamine issues and mast cell activation from molds and from chemicals and from stress, from the environment. We're not talking about any of that yet, right? We're just talking about whack-a-mole with thyroid medications, expecting that to be a magic wand, fixing it in one fall swoop and expecting it to do everything. That's what we're talking about. So anyways, I get fired up on these things, and I hope you watch this again because there's a lot of clinical pearls in this, and I'd hope it makes a couple of alarm bells go off and say, yeah, that really made sense, Joel. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's my goal, is to help you guys get your life back. In fact, I've told you this before. I work with people one-on-one, and our goal is to get you better. We won't accept not getting better as an option. right? And neither will you. So if you're not serious about finally taking action, then don't sign up for a 45-minute, no obligation, no charge consultation to figure out what's not working, what you're playing whack-a-mole with, and what you're looking to do and why you're not getting there. You can click on the truth about adrenal fatigue .com/apply. The truth about adrenal fatigue.com/apply. And there you'll get the opportunity for you and I to sit down and we'll get some rapport. We'll figure out, what's going on. Tell me about yourself. I want to get to know what's not working. What have you tried? What have you done? What has been helpful? What's missing? Where do you want to be? And why aren't you getting there? And if I feel I can help you bridge that gap and do it quickly and timely, I'll tell you everything you need. And if I don't know, I'll tell you that too. And I'll tell you, listen, Mrs. Jones, I don't know, but here's some things that I think you need to do. And either way, you'll walk away with a lot of value on that call. I hope you got a lot out of today's Facebook Live. I'll be doing this every Monday and Wednesday. Make sure you like my YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel, and you're a private Facebook member of the Dr. Joel Rosen's Truth About Adrenal Fatigue Facebook site. And also make sure you check out my brand new website called The Truth About Adrenal Fatigue. My name is Dr. Joel Rosen. I am the Adrenal Fatigue Recovery Ninja, and I look forward to ending your adrenal fatigue nightmare. Thank you so much.